What's going on, everybody in Wrestling with Tragedy? Thank you so much for watching the show. Whether you're watching this on Wrestling with Tragedy YouTube or on the Vince Russo Network, wherever you're watching us at, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys go and hit that thumbs up. Let us know you're enjoying the episode. I'm joined here, as always, with Piers. And, God, why do we keep letting Angel back in?
Dude, he's your friend.
I got the hookup. But, before you go any further, Kevin, I just want to say this show ain't the same without that little flavor of Pierce vaping or coughing or sniffing at the start of the show. It doesn't. I mean, we're missing that little aspect of the show. But anyway, go ahead. Keep going.
So, guys,
gimmick, bro. It's my gimmick.
We have a very special guest here with us today, and it's going to be an absolutely amazing show, guys. Before we bring him on, I just want to take one quick second to plug our amazing sponsors. Piers, you want to tell everybody about A-Rock Designs?
Oh, yeah. A-Rock Designs. They are the company that you are seeing all over the Facebook groups, in all wrestling Facebook groups, pages, everything. They make custom cups, hoodies, keychains, T-shirts, you name it. They make it. They actually made me this custom CM Punk tumbler. You know I'm a huge CM Punk fan, guys. So I was amazing. I was amazed when I got that. They also do stuff that isn't wrestling related. My kids got a couple of cups. My wife even got a cup. They're absolutely amazing. Hit up Ashley Rodriguez from A-Rock Designs, and she will take care of you and do amazing work. I cannot recommend them enough.
And yours and Angel's favorite belt maker.
What's that? Championship belts, baby. If you put it this way, every wrestling fan either owns a championship belt or fucking wants to have a championship belt. As you can see, Kevin's got a few up there. I've got a couple up here. Wasif championship belts are one of the best belt makers in the world. If you want a custom championship belt or a replica of your favorite championship belt, you can either hit up Kevin Rodriguez, or if you'd rather talk to someone a lot more friendly, you can talk to me, your favorite Australian. And we can help organize you and put you in contact and get you the best championship belt out there for the best value of money. We have special payment plans. Well, they have special payment plans that are available. So, contact us today, guys. Get yourself a championship belt and we'll be all good to go. Also, let me just say a special thank you to the Cicadas band for providing that awesome song in the beginning of our intro video. Their song Restriction is amazing. Make sure you go check out the Cicadas band on Facebook and YouTube.
Absolutely. Being able to have that entry music without worry of, being in trouble for copyright laws or anything like that. You guys have helped us out in a tremendous way. But guys, we're going to be covering something very touchy, something that we've seen affect not just pro wrestling, but football and other major sports as well. We're going to be after AEW's All Out. We all saw the Matt Hardy match. We've seen where he fell, hit his head on the pavement, clearly was not able to walk or stand under his own power. They continued the match. And due to that and the uproar amongst wrestling fans, we're going to be covering CTE today. But before we get into that, as I said, we have a very special guest. Angel, you've known this man for a very long time. I couldn't think of a better guest to have on. He is an absolute legend in the world of professional wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, Please help me in welcoming the man, the myth, the absolute legend, Mr. Stevie Richards. Stevie, how you doing?
I am so happy to be on a podcast that's on my schedule, my early morning schedule. It's 6:17 a.m. This is perfect. When I heard what time it was, usually I'm sure a lot of the wrestlers especially, are like 6:17 or 6 a.m. My God, I'm just getting home at 4, where I'm just like, yeah, that's right.
This is what happens when your partner's an Australian.
Yeah. Freaking Australians, man.
I might have a few questions for Piers about Australia. That's off topic from wrestling. I'm so curious about what's going on down there.
More than happy to answer any questions you have, buddy.
But first, I have to, as a worker. First of all, Angel, very good to see you, and I miss working out with you early in the morning or late at night when everybody's going out to party at the hotel. But Angel, we got to bust these two guys' balls right now, because how is it that the two guys that actually won championships don't have belts on their wall behind them?
That's what I was saying, man.
Who's this belt maker handing out belts to people that haven't won them?
Stevie, I know a guy.
I hear you, brother.
With that, I'd like to have my hardcore title and ECW tag belt. Please deliver it to Smyrna, Georgia. I'll give you my address after we're off the air.
Did you say Savannah, Georgia? We're like
No,
2 hours apart.
Smyrna, Georgia.
Oh, I thought you said Savannah. I was going to be like, Stevie, we're like 2 hours apart. I'll hand deliver it. But anyway, and I'm so glad.
Your belt company?
It's not my company. I just work with the maker. He makes them. I sell them for him. And he makes them. He sends them to me, and then I sell them from there.
Yeah, he distributes them. So he got the kind of the hookup with the guy. He's, they could say they're kind of partners, kind of, sort of.
All right, well.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was trying to joke around, but you guys just totally showed me out.
But anyway, I'm so glad to have Stevie here on the show. Angel, you as well. You always have really good insight, to the things Piers and I weren't privileged to. You both are workers in the business. Piers and I are just fans. But in your guys' experience, just to put into perspective, how much has CTE been or not really how much, but how long has CTE been a factor in professional wrestling that you guys can remember?
Oh man, I mean, Stevie, you go first. I'll let you.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, you go first.
You're the veteran, over 30 years. I'm only 28.5 or so.
I mean, I'll be honest. I never was familiar with CTE until, when it first came out on the news. I'm not gonna lie, because I was never aware about concussions. I got concussions. I got hit in the head, but I never thought about it. I never was really aware because, in the business during the 90s, Johnny was just always like, keep pushing forward. Don't worry about it. Drink vinegar. Your brain will be okay. And in ECW, we always wrestled hurt. I never said I cannot finish my match. I was always afraid to say I couldn't do it. So I always pushed forward, so even if I did have a concussion, I was not aware, I was not savvy on it,
I gotcha. Stevie, anything you want to input before we move on?
Yeah, I just think the culture back then in wrestling, I can sum it up in just a short kind of synopsis that wrestling used to be something to where if, for example, if you put your hands up for a chair shot, you would at the least be fined by the company, at the most have tons of heat and almost be crucified by the boys. You could lose your push over that because there was very much a red badge of courage. There was something to be said. I mean, there's a whole thing too about putting your hands up and having your arm broken too because guys were swinging them.
Balls.
So if you weren't taking it on top of your head, you could potentially, shatter your elbow. Other things could happen. It was a dangerous thing to think about. I will say this moving forward, I'll touch back on it. As it's become more and more apparent with medical science and medical science has caught up to identify CTE since the Dr. Amalu was the forerunner and the pioneer in this in the NFL. I've done everything that I possibly can. So using neuroplasty and using other things, keeping my mind sharp, learning something new each and every day, because Angel and I we're in the wheelhouse of nightly concussions, multiple ones within matches. So I think that needs to be prevention, along with guys doing something to stave off the symptoms as long as they can, are two things that I think the athlete can really take control of.
And the funny thing is that, I mean, through the years, I've been forgetting things, but I'm always like, nah, I can't be CTE. It's just I'm getting older. I mean, it's hard for me to study, to absorb, anything I read is hard for me to just comprehend. But again, I just keep saying, I'm just getting older and stuff. But it kind of scares me because I'm forgetting a lot of stuff. And, so I don't know, especially those matches with Balls. I mean, I used to get, like Stevie was saying, I remember Balls got mad at me because I did put up my hands, because I seen him break Steve Carino's head with the chair shot, broke PN News with the chair shot. And then I love Balls to death. But when you got in with Axel and Balls, using them as an example, they went from South Africa all the way to the Antarctica with that chair shot. And it just like bends right over your head. And Bubba, I used to see videos with Bubba, that chair just like bends, and Tanaka-san, the chair bends right over their head. So it's just crazy.
So for everybody who's watching who may not know what CTE is progressive degenerative disease amongst the brain brought on by things like concussions and head injuries and brain trauma and stuff like that. And to put into a better picture, so this is what a picture of a normal human brain looks like. And the other one is one that has been ridden with CTE, concussions, brain trauma. So this is the kind of effect that it has on a normal person, on a normal person's brain. And the reason everybody is so up in arms about it, I mean, they have been for, I mean, most famously since the Crispin Wall case. But recently everybody's really taken off about it after AEW's most recent pay-per-view this past Sunday, All Out. I happened to watch the pay-per-view. Did anybody else happen to catch it? I'm sure you've seen the clip.
I saw the clip. I didn't see the match.
So what happened? What happened for everybody who may not have seen it, and then we'll open it up so we can talk about it. Sammy Guevara was involved in a match with Matt Hardy. They had a spot where they went up on a scissor lift. There were two looked to be merch tables just below the scissor lift, and Sammy Guevara almost looked like a spear to Matt Hardy. They came off the scissor lift. They were going to go through the table, which is fine, except for one part. Matt's entire upper body missed the table, and when they crashed to the ground, his head hit the concrete floor. He was knocked unconscious for about 45 seconds. After he regained consciousness, he clearly was not, and I really wish I could show this footage, guys. However, it is copyrighted, and we cannot do that. But even after he makes it to his feet, he cannot walk or stand without the guidance of Sammy Guevara. They bring out a doctor, and the doctor clears him to continue to wrestle, and they restart the match. Now, I just want to go ahead and say that the Khan family, who owns AEW, also owns something called the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a football team. In the NFL, concussion protocol is at least 10 minutes. Matt Hardy was quote unquote cleared in maybe a minute.
Who was it that assessed him, though, Kevin? Was it the referee or an actual doctor?
It was an actual. The referee, Aubrey Edwards, initially stopped the match, or she threw up the X, and the match was stopped. And then their doctor came out and cleared him, and I knew the doctor's name. If you wouldn't have asked me, I'd have been able to tell you. I'll look it up really quick. But the doctor actually came out, and Matt Hardy said, "I'm good to go," because, of course, he's Matt Hardy. He doesn't know how to quit. He used to have this catchphrase saying Matt Hardy will never die. But in my opinion, and gentlemen, please correct me if I'm wrong, in that state, you are not fit to make your own decision. That is why you have a medical doctor. And the doctor said he was good to go and continued the match.
And is the doctor named Britt Baker? Britt Breaker?
Britt Baker. And no, she is a dentist.
Britt Breaker. But you know what the thing is as well? You made a very good point, Kevin, is he's not in the right state of mind to make that decision. AEW and the medical staff have a duty of care for their performers and their staff to make that decision for them. He was out for 45 seconds. Sooner, and look, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like if a referee is going to throw up the X to say shit's gone pear-shaped, we need to get medical treatment out there. That match, out the window. Well, it's done. It's done and dusted. That wrestler is not performing for the rest of the evening until he can be assessed. Yeah, properly.
Because they're just to interject for a second. Supposedly there's some stupid fake wrestling stipulation that if Matt lost, he's out of AEW or something. Dude, excuse my language. Who gives a fuck at that point about, that the reality? This is why wrestling also, something real happened. You could have went with it and turned it into a storyline. If you really want to just stick to the nuts and bolts of business, we'll figure it out later. This match is stopped. This adds an element of danger, which is very real in wrestling. But no, we got to go to the next choreographed spot, which is actually more dangerous. And Matt Hardy, don't know if you ever seen the guy walk. His hips and his legs and his back are not necessarily in the best shape, but you're expecting him to climb a scaffold, which the bars are even thicker, that, if you were of sound mind and body, it would be trouble to navigate all the way up to there for another goofy spot. Table spots, I said shortly or interject quickly, but I can't, because how in the world can we just reset everything in pro wrestling and start like really, really taking a good hard look at it, because you're going to fall through a table. Now you got to go higher to fall through a table. Now you have to spear somebody through a table. Now you have to climb even higher than that to go through the stage. What's next? Falling off the roof of the stadium?
But that's
they had
the
a
thing.
spot like that planned at WrestleMania, by the way, between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, jumping off the ship at the Tampa Bay. So they are somebody's going to die, man, or somebody's going to be left like in a state where they wish they died because they're a vegetable.
Yeah,
Look,
I think that's one of the biggest things that. First off, to answer your previous question, Angel, his name is Dr. Sampson. He is the head medical advisor for AEW, who cleared Matt Hardy. But the biggest argument that I see now, you guys know I have a very big following on TikTok and Instagram as well, and the Facebook page, amongst other places. But the question everybody seems to be having is, why would you restart the match when he cannot walk nor stand under his own ability? And guys, I encourage you to go look up the clip. He cannot walk. He cannot stand. He can barely talk. And he is literally sitting down, throwing punches at Sammy, missing about 75% of those punches. And the biggest question everybody has is, why would the doctor restart the match knowing the final spot he's climbing 25 feet up a scaffolding structure where he could, if he loses his equilibrium there, he is dead. Well, and everybody says he's a worker and he needs to finish the match.
Yeah.
No, he is a father and he needs to feed his family. He needs to be able to teach his son how to drive a car. He needs to be able to teach his son how to throw a ball. All that is what he needs to do. Like Stevie said, you stop the daggum match regardless of the stupid situation.
Now, like one of the things that I was saying is that, previously, you don't ask the boys if they're okay or they can continue, because we're going to say, yeah, we can keep pushing forward. That's one thing I always, even if I was hurt 100%, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm good. I can continue, because, again, it's ingrained in us. But also these doctors, I don't know how much power they have. They're probably just afraid because if they stop the match, they're going to get heat and lose their job from AEW, WWE, whatever company they're working for. I don't think they have
the fuck out of here.
If any company doesn't have that excuse, and I'm an AEW mark, you guys know this. I've enjoyed AEW since they started. But if any company cannot use that excuse, I would say it's AEW. They own the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL, has very strict protocol, and they also own a soccer team which also has very strict concussion protocol. You come out for at least one play, or you come out for a play in at least 10 minutes if you have and the reason they do that is if you have a concussion, it gives time for the symptoms to set in. I believe it's soccer where if you are suspected to have a concussion, they sit you in a completely quiet, soundproof room to bring on the symptoms of that concussion to make sure you don't actually have one. They don't have that excuse, in my opinion. If the doctor cancels it and they say, look, he's fucked up, they know the risks of concussions from owning these other teams. If it's, your pop-up mud show, whatever independent wrestling show that doesn't know any better, I can see that excuse happening. But this is AEW. They have many other sports teams. They're very familiar with concussions. They're familiar with what happens. And who's not familiar with the Chris Benoit story? This isn't just Matt Hardy. Like Stevie and Angel said at the beginning, this has been happening in pro wrestling for a very long time. I don't think they can use that excuse.
But even that's the thing you need to look at. Pro wrestlers and pro athletes, they're built and bred to perform. They're built and bred to go out there and do their job, which is their chosen sport and their chosen profession. You look at UFC and boxing for a prime example. If a UFC fighter has a doctor come in to assess them, or even a boxing doctor, what is the one when the doctor asks every athlete, "Are you okay?" What does every fighter say? I'm good to go.
They say okay.
I'm good to go. And it's the same in pro wrestling. You take someone like Matt Hardy, who's been doing this for 20 plus years. He's a professional. He's been in the business for so long. He's gonna finish that match.
You bring up boxing and pro fighting. Let me ask you this and then I'll shut up so Angel and somebody else can talk. At what point in any pro fighting match or boxing match, kickboxing, whatever, any other combat sport, Name one time you remember somebody getting knocked the hell out and then them restart the match. That stops a fight every single time. Twice at 7 days a week, twice on Sunday, that'll stop any fight. But not in pro wrestling. It was a stupid call in my opinion, and it put Matt Hardy in such a it put him at such high risk. It didn't need to happen. And even his wife was very vocal about it. Angel, I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, you ain't cutting me off. I was going to ask Stevie. I mean, because he had more high caliber matches, very more, extreme matches and stuff like that. I mean, you've been at the forefront in regards to getting hit in the head.
Yeah, it's good to have an actual wrestler on the show.
Yeah, motherfucker. but I mean, Stevie's been in the trenches. I mean, way longer than I have. I mean, the stuff that you went through. What do you think your head is like right now?
Well, I thank God every day that I still do have my sense, and that I continue, like I said in the beginning, trying to learn different things and trying to grow and use some of the science like neuroplasty. There's certain devices like the Halo Sport that I use. I try to be, because it's not about me. And I talking about Matt, I know he's got to think like a worker. There's that instinct, but as a father and a husband, which I'm a husband, and I do have, cats, not kids, but I do have people that are counting on me to take care of them and not be a burden on them in the future. That's very important to me. I get very emotional when I think about, my God, I could, even doing all this stuff, I could potentially be a burden to my loved ones for the choices that I made that I didn't think were choices at the time. Now, 28, 29 years in the business, if I was in that locker room, I don't care if I'm a babyface or a heel. If I have an angle with Matt Hardy, I'm going out there, pulling my friend and forcibly taking him out of that situation. I don't care about Tony Khan. I don't care about the fans or AEW or the finish or the stipulation. Let's talk about the cons. People might not know this because everybody's in this wrestling bubble, and very few people are wrestling and football fans, not American football, not European. There was a memo put out by the Players Association of the NFL telling players, do not go to Jacksonville. Do not take a trade to like basically they have the scarlet letter on them for the way that they run the company, the way they run the team, the way Tony Khan gets into Twitter wars. Players have come out and talked about having no respect for Tony Khan. Now you're carrying that culture over to AEW, the worst football culture in the NFL out of all 32 teams.
In a league where you have teams like Oakland and Cleveland and guys like that, and you're the worst.
You're trading away players that can still, there's no faith in the ownership, and these are the people that own AEW. Now, Tony Khan, Ben Hameen put it best. Tony Khan thinks that he owns a video game. Tony Khan's like, go up on the scaffold, press up and X, do this. He doesn't have, he can say he cares all he wants. The truth is in his actions. In the opening scrum on that press conference, I want you to count how many times Tony Khan said, I rang the bell. I paused the match. I checked on that. I restarted the match. Think about that. This is no different. You can present it and wrap it up in a nice little SJW present with a bow on top. He's the pimp and they're the prostitutes. It's the same as it was for the past 100+ years. Angel, do you agree with that?
No, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, I'm a victim of like, those situations in regards to like, hey, I don't know. It's just, I was always afraid to say no.
Dude, I was the king of I broke my neck because, oh yeah, sure, Terry Funk, throw a guardrail on my back. It should be fine. And ended up getting paralyzed for an hour.
Yeah.
Just because I was afraid to say no.
Yeah. Sabu broke his neck, Chris Benoit. I mean, just tons of guys. It's just afraid to say no because we were afraid to lose our spot. And it made you look like a pussy. Well, I can't do it. I can't wrestle. I can't,
But as a veteran now in a locker room, if you were in that AEW locker room,
no, I ain't doing it.
You would, but if you saw somebody else in a position like that, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about the work, the storyline, the business is exposed and nobody cares, and the lowest ratings in history and continue to go down. Is Matt Hardy, whether I like the guy or not, is anybody's life worth it for a pay-per-view that you're going to forget about by the time Wednesday comes along?
No, absolutely not. But let me ask you this. In 1998, when Mick Foley and The Undertaker had that Hell in a Cell match where Foley came off the cell once, then through the cell a little bit later, that match in itself, again, should have been stopped. You know, agreed it's 1998 comparing it to 2020, but you've just seen, you know, obviously, you know, one of your employees, one of your contracted talent take two hellacious bumps. That match, again, like, I don't know Mick Foley on a personal level. I don't know what his quality of life is these days, but you know, you look at the injuries, and the concussions he's had. Back then, that sort of match, like, no way in the world that sort of match would happen today on a WWE pay-per-view.
Oh yeah, Mick Foley's. I mean, his whole body's. Yeah, Mick Foley's just. I mean, I love the guy to death. I mean, but he's broken. I mean, I've seen videos of people showing X-rays of his spine, how it's compressed, and you know, vertebrae is all jacked up, and yeah, I mean, he's beyond fucked up. You know. So
I just want to go to two things.
Up, but you can see he was never in great shape to begin with. He never took care of himself. He never ate the food, and he hasn't done that. I'm just saying he might not be 100%, but like I said before, the boys or the girls in the business still do have an opportunity to try to control and stave off some of those things. You know, obviously, I think when Mick with falling off the cage, that was supposed to be the finish, and they kind of called an audible and kept going. If he had just gotten thrown off the cage and that was the end of it, I don't think any fans would be complaining that the match was too short. But he took a calculated risk, and that actually, I think that made him. So it's tough to say back then.
Yeah.
Today, sure. I would never continue that.
I think it definitely cemented his legacy as one of the most iconic performers of all time. But looking at it from a human level, though, it's like.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say that you could say that now, like he's a legend and stuff like that. But when 10 years from now, when he's eating oatmeal and he's drinking yogurt out of a cup, you can go up and say, "Hey, you're a legend" and stuff. And he probably doesn't even remember the match. I'm just saying, it's just that. I mean, the guy. I mean, in the 90s, it was different, but it's just, I feel sad because when I see him now, because I don't even, how old is Mick right now, Stevie? I mean, I'm 48.
He's he might be in his early 50s or something like that.
And the guy was walking like he's always in pain. Again, I'm not knocking him. I think he's a legend. It's just, I just like, man, the guy just went through hell and back, you know.
Mean, Harley Race was very much the same way before he died. When Harley Race was, you know, NWA champion, I mean, he was one of the most hard-nosed, rough-hitting, just one of the, in my opinion, one of the best of all time, and ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. I mean, this stuff is no joke. But I want to go to two quick points from Matt Hardy's wife's Twitter. She posted a lot that night, but the two that really stand out is she posted a screenshot of hers and Matt's conversation before the match took place, where Matt Hardy texted her and said, "Love you. Got to head to the football field starting in just a minute. Hope you enjoy." His wife said, "I love you. Don't be dumb." And then shortly after, when the match took place, what the fuck? Matt Hardy, what the GD fucking fuck? After that, she went on to post on Twitter, "Let me be absolutely fucking clear. There is nothing entertaining about concussions. Shame on everybody in that GD building." And another tweet she posted that night said, "They needed additional imaging done after his CT. He is still in the hospital, 1,000% concussed. Anyone with eyes could have seen that." Matt Hardy went to the hospital immediately after his match and was not released from the hospital until about 2 p.m. the following Sunday. There is no way you can justify restarting that match.
But Tony Khan in the scrum made it sound like he was okay. Everything was good, and that forced, I guess, Rebby to make the comments she did on Twitter.
I believe that's exactly what it came from. And you know, this is why I love being able to sit down with Angel each and every week. And Stevie, once again, thank you so much for being here. You guys bring up certain points that Piers and I just wouldn't look at. Like when you brought up Tony Khan, I restarted the match. I said he was okay. I did this. I did that. We as fans don't look at it that way, but now that you bring it up, I mean, there's no excuse. There's no excuse for that match to continue. And it's like we said earlier, when you know the final spot is climbing a scaffolding structure where he is clearly not able to walk or stand on his own, the only reason people are not, in my opinion, the only reason people aren't more upset about this is because Matt turned out to be okay. For now, air quotations. Had he have fallen off that scaffolding equipment, everybody would be a lot madder. And my question is, why does it have to come to that for people to open their eyes?
I just wonder very quickly if Tony Khan will be taking so much credit when it comes down to maybe a future lawsuit because of the CTE symptoms or anything. Is it going to be I, or is it going to be my lawyers, my team, my representative? Yeah, he won't be I and then.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that, I mean, I'm going back in time, but I mean, look at the New Jack and Vic Grimes incident, especially when Vic landed on, I mean, Vic is like, was 300 plus and landing on Jack's head. Same scenario, just landing on his head. And I mean, I didn't see it, but Jack saying he was leaking fluid out of his ears from that impact because they missed the table. And I mean, to this day, and I was talking to a friend of mine today. I said, yeah, Jack, when I sat there and talked to him, he's not the same. Like when I was talking one day, we were at a convention and I said, he was just quiet. And I just turned to him and I said, Jack, you all right, man? You're quiet. And he goes, yeah, man, I'm fine. It's just not the same person compared to the Jack I knew during the ECW time. He just, nah, man, I'm good. But all the videos he's saying that he's lost one sight in his eye. He's not as sharp as he used to be. And then, like I said, I was just talking to him. It just was like talking to a different person. It was just weird, you know? And I'm not saying anything bad about him. It's just, I'm so used to a different person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
It's crazy to think like that, you know, the head injuries. And one of the things that I was watching prior to coming on with you gentlemen was I was watching an interview with Perry Saturn, who, when I was a teenager, I was a huge fan of Perry. And the way he was talking and what he was describing of how his quality of life was, it was heartbreaking. One of the things he was saying is like, I do weird shit. Like I'll take my remote control from my TV and just hide it and go, why the fuck would I do that? And then, you know, like, or go into my kid's room and just be standing there in the middle of the darkness and going, what the fuck's going on? He's like, I would just rather lose my mind completely than have it, you know, fucking going gradually like it is. And that, man, like that's to be able to have that funk, like actually know what is happening. Like you sit there and have these little moments would be the scariest thing. And that's, even he said that. But have you guys ever witnessed any guys that you've been in the business with over, you know, 20 plus years that were showing signs of just doing very peculiar things that were out of that person's personality
had
trait?
nothing to do with CTE.
That's what I was like, because I was like,
Stevie said that's called a Tuesday night, Piers.
Yeah, I just like, we both laughed because we're like, that's kind of hard because, you know, yeah.
I don't want to hear the story about the guy in the wheelchair pinned against the mattress.
Not
again, Angel. That was enough.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's hard because, you know, like using Balls Mahoney, you know, I mean, he was far out there and he was always been that way. So I couldn't even tell if he had CTE or not, you know, but no, I can't recall any besides Jack, the Jack situation, but I can't really, I don't know. I mean, Snuka was not, you know, a little bit different, but I don't know if that was from concussions or through just the years of just being mellow. But anyway, Stevie, do you recall anybody?
Well, the thing is, it's hard to gauge too, because when you're at those conventions or even shows and stuff, it's usually drug-induced behavior, where they're weird or falling asleep or not quite with it, right, Angel? Like, I've seen more guys that you can tell they're taking pills or they're drunk. They got the Gatorade bottle with the vodka in it, and that could be actually to numb the pain, that's the only clarity they ever have. It could be the opposite effect, that when they don't do that, they're all over the place. I mean, we all have these, you know, semi-senior moments and stuff. I think wrestlers and athletes should be like more hypersensitive to it. Like I always write down notes. I do what's called a brain dump, which is like getting things done method. I've been trying to do these things to kind of like head it off at the past before I start worrying and obsessing over that. Okay, I'm just going to change my habits. I know I'm not going to remember an hour from now because everybody gets so scatterbrained. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, that's what I got to do. Even if I got to get the same milk and eggs I always get when I go to Walmart, I'm going to write it down.
Hey, give me 1 second.
One of the things I was reading
already. What's this?
I know. One of the things I was actually reading about, there was a young independent wrestler that passed away in 2010 by the name of JC Bailey. Now, his father was a promoter. JC was one of the deathmatch wrestlers who was very heavily involved with Ian Rotten and John Zandig back in the early 2000s. He passed away in his sleep, and when they did the checks on his brain, everything like that, it was just from multiple concussions. Before he went to sleep, he was complaining of a headache, numbness in the hands, and he was 27 years of age. That's fucking nuts, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, compared to, like, you see some guys in their 50s and 60s that sort of start getting that early onset dementia. This guy was 27. Like,
yeah, there was in the League of Denial documentary, I believe it was in that or another one. No, there was League of Denial. That great documentary on the NFL concussion thing, Dr. Amalu. And that's something that every wrestling fan and every wrestler should watch. Because these guys are protected with helmets and padding and all that stuff. And even then, like you had said, Kevin, they have to sit out for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. There was a high school kid that had it after he committed suicide, or there was another one that died. And he ended up, and that's the one thing too. People can say, well, he has CTE, this and that. It can't be officially diagnosed until post-mortem, until after death and an autopsy. Yeah. Like the initial one with Mike Webster, played center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's a story that should terrify everybody out there, especially wrestlers. I remember his kid telling a story, and I don't know if you guys seen this documentary. It's on YouTube for free. He's sitting in his truck, and it's super, super cold in Pittsburgh, but he doesn't have a jacket on. And he's like, Dad, why don't you put your jacket on? You're cold. And he was like, well, that's the thing. I'm cold, and I know that I need to do something about it, but I don't know what to do. I'm paraphrasing it, but that he's cold, but he doesn't know how to solve the problem of being cold.
I would assume, you're an NFL fan. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Aaron Hernandez?
Absolutely.
27 years old when he died. At the top of his field. Just came off of a Super Bowl win. He was national champion in Florida. Known for taking some hellacious shots. He ends up going to prison right after they win the Super Bowl. Ends up going to prison for murder. They suspected him of killing one person. Ends up that he was charged with ended up killing, I believe, 3 people. He had been convicted. He was going through an appeal, and his lawyers telling him this whole time, like, we got a pretty good shot at this. I believe he already had one overturned. I watched the documentary on Netflix. Yeah, he had one of his convictions overturned, and they were going after the second one. And before it ever went to trial, he ended up hanging himself in his prison cell. Turns out his brain, I believe the doctor that was on the Netflix series said, Aaron Hernandez was 27 years old when he passed away. Had the brain of an 82-year-old man.
It's funny.
I was reading about that.
Yeah. You read?
It's actually a great series to watch, and really gives a lot more insight on CTE and brain injuries and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff in there too, but it's absolutely free to watch on Netflix, and I highly encourage anybody to watch it. If you really want to learn more about CTE, they go into a very deep discussion about it, and it's a very good watch.
Now, I mean, when I heard a rumor, but again, I don't know if it's fact or fiction, but when Axel passed away, I heard his family donated his brain to get tested, and I heard he had the same type of thing. But again, I heard it, but I didn't know if that was fact. Have you heard something like that, Stevie?
No, I would assume that they would have done that. I would assume Chris Nowinski would have reached out since he has wrestling ties. I want to push back a little bit on the Aaron Hernandez thing, and even talking a little bit about Axel and Balls and other people like that. Aaron Hernandez was running like this since high school and college.
Mm-hmm.
So the behavior, like the murders, you can't really fully connect those because the pattern of behavior, and of course being famous in football and the Miami Hurricanes and getting away with literally maybe murder because he could perform and he could score touchdowns. So that solves every problem, right? So that's something with that. But Axel and Balls and other people, the drug use and the other problems and the choices that are made, you'd have to look at somebody like, I'd go back to the Mike Websters and other people, even Andre Waters, who didn't seem to have too much of an outside repeated behavioral issue, like with drugs and getting arrested and violence and gang stuff or anything like that.
Without as many contributing factors.
Exactly. That's how the NFL and WWE and even AEW after this point, if it comes back up, can get away with it. Because number one, you can't diagnose it until they die. Number two, you can say steroids, you can say drugs. Oh, he stayed up late, he didn't get enough rest. Mick Foley didn't take care of his body. They have all these little outs because they could be contributing factors to their current physical and mental and emotional state. Do you agree with that, Piers?
Yeah, I definitely can. I mean, it also comes into, the performer or the athlete's mental health as well. If they've got a history of, if they've got bipolar disorder or depression or, schizophrenia or something like that, that could be also contributing factors. And they're using the concussion as a way to get it through the WWE. But looking at, one of the guys that you guys may know, Rock and Rebel, back in 2018, he, murder suicide, and that was part of one of the things I was reading about was, concussions, but, then look at, what he was also putting into his body over the years as well. That could also be contributing factors. I think
Chuck had a history, though. This exact thing happened in a hostage situation years before with the same girl.
So
Stephanie, I think her name was. Do you remember that, Angel? It was many years before that. There was a situation with the police, a domestic situation where it almost was like a hostage type situation that mirrored this kind of stuff. Vito and Noel were kind of trying to get her away from that situation, from what I understand.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I only met Rock and Rebel a couple times. I was never really, I never knew him. I mean, because when I got to ECW, he was gone. I mean, I think he came to the locker room a couple times, but I never really knew the guy.
But that's the thing, man. Like, it's so many different factors that come into play when it comes to the CTE. And it's like, you look at it, you think it's only guys that took excessive chair shots or anything like that. But, falling and taking a back bump on the mat, you land the wrong way, you hit your head, you could concuss yourself on that canvas. Hitting your head onto the turnbuckle by making a slip and having an accident happen. Again, you can knock yourself out. Exactly. Like, there's different ways that I think wrestling fans overall need to understand that it's not just getting hit in the head with a steel chair, which is going to give you a concussion. Getting hit with a steel chair isn't going to help you any, but there's other factors that can happen. It's the continual of, taking bumps every single day, which, Kevin, you've made the comment before, but that being in a wrestling match is like being in a minor car accident. When you're doing it
depends
every
on
day
who
of
you're
your
facing,
life.
if it's going to be minor or not.
True.
But
True.
One question that I have is, we've seen, from the time where you guys were in the locker room, Stevie and Angel, to today and everything in between, pro wrestling has made its fair share of strides, with medical science and understanding mental health and understanding concussion protocol. Does this incident and incidents like this set pro wrestling back?
You go first, Angel.
That's very difficult for me to. I don't know. It's very difficult for me because I'm always thinking back then. I'm always like, well, back then was different. Back then, and I'm not in the locker room now to see how far science or things that they're doing differently compared to how it was back then. Like I said, we didn't have the doctors in ECW. We didn't have the doctors in Puerto Rico
But they have them now.
They have them now. So that's a plus. But again, how much power does the doctor have, to say, like in the UFC, it's over, it's done, it's a wrap. In WWE, are they like, hey, Vince, he can't perform, he has a cushion, fuck that.
Shane Douglas has a great story about that from the Garden.
Well, you gotta tell us that if you know it. But
he had something where he could have been paralyzed. He was messed up. His spine was messed up, and the commission doctor told Vince, if he goes out there, he might be paralyzed. And Vince got in the doctor's face in that, like, almost like TV Vince. Like, what are you doing? You're gonna fuck all these people tonight out of the main event, which Shane was like popcorn. You know what I mean? Tried to play it up like Shane was going to cost the WWE like tons of money for not performing. It's your playground bully grade school intimidation.
And see, that's what I mean. That how do we know how much power does that doctor have? If he goes up to Vince or Triple H or anybody in the locker room saying, hey, Angel can't perform, Stevie can't perform, CM Punk can't perform, what the fuck? You give him some somas or give him some shit so he can walk out that curtain to do the match. I mean, I'm just saying, I just don't think the doctor doesn't want to, it's all about money. And I just don't think that, it's almost like workman's comp. They work for the company and not for the people. But
you made it.
You have to look at. Go ahead, Pierce. I'm sorry.
No, go. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think wrestlers have to look at the state of the business honestly and just say all around, it just sucks. And it sucks even worse because there's no fans. There's no adrenaline or anything. So you're looking around like, what am I falling off a scaffold or getting speared through a table for? No, it's never been less popular. You can appreciate it. You can like AEW. I'll call out AEW once again, since I seem to be doing in this episode. I thought this was supposed to be sports based. I was supposed to be based on wins and losses. I thought it was supposed to be like more athletic and less bullshit like WWE does. How many gimmick matches were on this pay-per-view that were silly?
Not only that, you bring up the win and loss record, and this is an argument that I had earlier. And like I said, I'm an AEW fan, but at the same time, if you truly are a fan of something, you can call it out on its bullshit. You bring up the win-loss record. When's the last time the number one ranked guy got the world title opportunity? Darby Allin, who was ranked, I think, number 5th, just faced Jon Moxley for the title. What's the point in having him if you're not – you sit here and say wins and losses are going to matter, but then on the same hand, and I know I'm getting off topic with this, but on the same hand, you're showing that wins and losses don't actually matter. In these gimmick matches, you had the tooth and nail match, you had the Mimosa Mayhem match, you had the Broken Rules match.
You would think if you're an AEW fan that Vince Russo wrote this show, right? you talk about Russo, but this is Tony Khan writing this shit.
Are we allowed to say that on this network?
All right, it's all right. I'll get you guys up to the main channel soon.
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was gimmick after gimmick after gimmick. The Casino Battle Royal was another one, so that's 4 just right off the top of my head. And
but Stevie made a point. It's funny how he says, the fans and in the audience, and there's no fans out there. But I always remember, it doesn't matter if there's 1 or 2 or 10,000. You give it 150% because they paid their ticket. And and I went out there. I mean, there was matches. I was like, look through the curtain. There's nobody there. And we had to give it like it was a pay-per-view. And during those times where the COVID was hitting, and there was nobody in the audience. They were doing these crazy spots because, again, they probably were afraid, man, if I don't do it, I'm not going to get pushed. You're going to hold it against me once this COVID thing subsides, so you got to go out there because you're afraid to say no. That's
Well,
it.
it even comes back. Remember, what was it Fandango? He was set to win the WWE Championship. He was getting headaches. He was, concussion symptoms. He turned around and pulled Jericho aside and said, "Hey, man, this is what I'm going through." Jericho told him, "Shut the fuck up. Win the title.
Win the
then
title
go
and then go."
Yeah, shut your mouth. Win the title, then go. You know what I mean? We can say all we like that it's, 21st century, everything's all changed and all this bullshit, but like that wasn't that long ago. Even CM Punk, when he left WWE in what, 2013, he was saying the doctors would just jab him with a needle, push him out the curtain. You know what I mean? So that wasn't that long ago either. Are these doctors really out there for the benefit and the care of the performer? Or they're just collecting a paycheck from Big Daddy Vince or Big Daddy Khan? Here's the money, and do what we tell you to give them.
And just from a fan's perspective, the Fandango incident is a very good example. And like Stevie said at the beginning of the show, it could potentially kill your push. We saw Fandango debut at WrestleMania against Chris Jericho. Through Chris Jericho's words on his podcast, Talk is Jericho, Fandango was set to win the world title. Said he was having some head issues, said he was getting headaches, forgetting some stuff, thought he may have had a concussion, and Jericho told him, "Shut your mouth, win the title, and then go see a doctor." Fandango said, "No, I'm going to go see a doctor first." Since then, never seen a championship until, last week he won the NXT Tag Team Championship. But that just goes to show, you have this guy who's being primed for the world title spot. It's been 6-7 years, if not longer, and he finally wins a tag team title.
Yeah, I mean I agree with you. I mean, that's just something like you can see the writing on the wall that once he said no and he didn't do it, it kind of affected his career, and see how it is. I mean, again, going back to the Vic Grimes and New Jack situation, I was supposed to go off that scaffold. But when I looked up and I saw that it was unsafe, and DeVito was right next to me, I said, "Fuck that, I ain't doing that." Because I asked him, I said, "You need to put some plywood there. If I'm going to take a suplex off that top, I need to make sure that I'm 100% safe." Mm-hmm. And then they came back to me and said, "Hey, we couldn't go to Staples. That's a furniture store, Pierce. I don't know if you have one out there, but it's a furniture store with the tables." No, I'm sorry, they didn't go to see. Look, that CTE is.
I was about to say, when has Staples been a furniture store?
Yeah,
isn't that like
office supplies? Office supplies. That's what I meant.
There's furniture there. You are right still.
Yeah, but anyway,
they
were supposed to go to Home Depot and get wood, and the thing was they didn't have time to go get the wood to put on top of the scaffold. They said they couldn't do it. I have to make do what I had. So I told DeVito, I was like, "Fuck this, I ain't doing it." So Vic Grimes comes in. I'm not knocking Vic. Vic was just crazy. I'll do it. And I said, "Well, motherfucker, your fat ass can do it because I ain't do it." And that's how that ended up, because I refused to do it. It didn't affect my push because it was between us four, and Paul didn't care who was going off the scaffold as long as somebody went off that scaffold to do the spot.
So,
but that's the thing. If sorry to interrupt, Kevin, I just want to ask a question off that. But let's say Paul Heyman, for example, in ECW, back when this spot was going to happen at this show, if each member of the Baldies went, "Fuck that, we ain't doing that," what would he done with the Baldies then? All right, I'm gonna squash these fuckers.
No, we would have ended up in Spokane, Washington, doing carnival shows, and after that, I mean, basically, yeah, we would have been. Yeah, my gut feeling, we would have been shitted on. We would have been phased out. I mean, a lot of guys got phased out. I'm just going off my gut feeling that the Baldies would have been. That's it. It's over. So, mean, Stevie, do you think? I mean, am I going too far to the left, or
he would have milked it for everything he could as far as breaking you guys up, and whoever refused the most would have been buried the most and kept around while being starved the most. It wouldn't have been a Band-Aid. It would have been like a torture session over the course of a year where you'd want to quit.
He would have waterboarded.
He wouldn't fire you. He'd keep you around.
That's savage. That's fucked.
Well, that's what you're dealing with. But guess what? I give all the credit in the world to Fandango, and somebody who also people have said have potential to do a lot more in the wrestling business. There's choices I made at the time that, quite frankly, not so much medical, but ethical, that were ones that I can live with today and be friends with people like Angel and be myself. But if I had made the other choices, I probably would have gotten a world title or intercontinental title. I'm not saying anything so nefarious. I'm just talking about, burying this guy that didn't deserve to be buried, or joining in the high school cafeteria peer pressure and all the bullshit I didn't want. I wanted to make money, save it, and get out and do something else. But unfortunately, it's a lot of go along to get along bullshit in wrestling. That doesn't mean anything. And Fandango, yeah, maybe he would have won the world title and then he would have sought a doctor, but maybe all the symptoms, or maybe, numbness in his arms and all these other symptoms would have came up that he'd still be living with today. And he looks like a fairly healthy guy that can live a normal life. So Jericho within the business was giving him good advice. Just get that belt, get the money, get that 8x10 so you can go to conventions after you're out of here and you can forever be a WWE champion. I get that. But I think Fandango made the right choice for longevity in his life. And I commend him for that.
So let me ask you this. We're coming up on that 1 hour mark. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but Angel,
I got all day, dude. Don't worry. I'm not going to work on him.
Angel and Stevie, you guys being, former wrestlers and being in that environment, if there was a young independent wrestler watching the show, or just somebody seeking some kind of advice on this topic, what would you tell a young upcoming wrestler working the independent scene about the severity of CTE and concussions and head trauma and stuff like that? What would be the advice you would give that person?
You go first, Steve.
Well, I CT or not, no matter what the situation, get an education, get your college degree, or at least learn a trade or something that makes wrestling something that you can choose to do, and more importantly, choose when to leave. Walk out on your own terms. It's a dream of every athlete and entertainer to walk away on your own terms.
So enjoy it, but don't be dependent on it.
Yeah. I mean, invest everything you can and do your best. Don't half-ass it like it's a hobby unless that's what you want it to be. You can make this as much as you want, but also know in the back of your mind that when you're put in that corner and told to fall off a scaffold, or told you're going to get speared through a table, that if I say no, I can go and do this tomorrow. That's a very knowing. And you know what happens is, the promoters always pay the money to the people that don't care. They always pay the money to the people that act like they don't need it. They always push the people the most that don't care about it. It's a whores like queens and queens like whores complex. Everybody wants to pursue the pretty girl that doesn't care. But if you act desperate, guess what happens? Nobody wants you. That would be the best advice. Be in control of your own destiny.
And it's funny. I was laughing when Stevie mentioned that, because nothing bad. It's just when I first got into the business, Devin Storm, known as Crowbar, we were sitting at one of the high school shows. Again, I was the wrestler Spanish Angel. He was Devin Storm. And he said to me what Stevie said, because he was going to school to be a physical therapist or a chiropractor. And he said, Angel, get your education, because this business, you're only good in this business for so long and you need something to fall back on. That's why I'm going to school, to further my career, because I don't know how long I have in this business. So my dumb ass was like, inside I was like, whatever, man. I don't care, man. I'm going to be a star wrestling, this and that. But he gave me that advice. And to this day, we were talking, he was telling me about, when he was in WCW, he was going to school, he was taking his exams, they were kind of helping him continue with his education. But it's funny how Stevie mentioned that's the advice from not even a veteran. I mean, he was a veteran, but he was still in the indies. But he was giving me that advice saying, Angel, get your education. You need it, because you don't know how long you have in this business. And the other thing, he's true, because when I used to be quiet. I used to be like, no, I'm not going to bitch. I'm not going to bitch about my contract. I'm not going to bitch about the money, because everybody's bitching. Balls was yelling, and everybody's getting paid. Everybody's getting paid. I'm not coming to the next show. And I was just like, I'm going to be the quiet one. I'm going to be the good wrestler. And they're going to see at the end that I'm going to get paid. They're going to take care of me.
Nice guys finish last. Nice guys finish last. As I
yeah, so
I was the same way, and I didn't learn that until after my full time career was over, and I started Stevie Richards Fitness, and I started the projects that I do outside and all the things that I have going on. Very much like I'll still get calls and things like that with promoters and people that think that they got me over a barrel because they're not aware that I have my own business, my own brand, and other, income producing things. And also still, like Angel said, even at almost 50, I'm looking and saying, maybe I'll go back to school. Maybe I'll learn a trade because when I own a house, I don't have to pay a plumber or an electrician or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I see a benefit in all that stuff. But it took me almost 26, 27 years to learn that kind of stuff. And guess what happens? I get more calls than ever because they say, he doesn't really want to do it. You better have a good money amount if you call him. It's really weird because I was the quiet one. I was the one, dude, I'll just sit back and I'll be the good employee. And it sucks, but it will only get you so far if they don't respect you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But now I learned that now. I wish I knew that then, and I maybe would have been further. I'm just speculating.
Well, you got further in life because wrestling does hold you back.
Yeah,
to some degree, being in the bubble. So guys like us, it's been a blessing because we kept one foot in the real world the whole time.
Well, I mean, like, I forgot who taught me this. The same people you meet on the way up is the same people you're going to meet on the way down. So I never treated anybody with disrespect. I mean, like I said, the angel gimmick is just a gimmick. It's just a character. Besides,
you did a little bit to me when you tried to take over the hotel gym. That was a little disrespectful. I was going to pull a vet card on that one. I want that treadmill.
Yeah,
it's actually as an old saying that my dad used to say, Angel, which is very similar to what you just said. Be careful of the toes that you step on today because they may be connected to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
but again, like I said, with the CTE situation, I get kind of scared because, like I said, I there's times I forget a lot of things, but I don't know what contributes to that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like my mind's like, it's not that. It's just my mind is just old, and stuff like that. But like Stevie said, the only way they could figure it out is when I die and split my skull open and see that pea-sized brain of mine and see if I have that type of damage and stuff. I mean, Pierce, you're Australian. You guys are all fucked up in the head, so they probably can't compare apples and oranges.
No, we just put the people we think that are a bit off in a boxing ring with a kangaroo. Whoever's left standing is,
Awesome.
So let me ask you guys one more question. Today everybody's got one of these. Everybody's got a cell phone. It's got the world.
Okay.
You got the world in the palm of your hand. There's so much information about concussions, CTE, brain trauma, and all this stuff out there today. How much information was available to you guys when you guys were wrestling, and was it easy to find that information, or did you guys have to search for it?
I mean, it was the dirt sheets. I mean, the internet was not as technically advanced as now. We had the sheets, the magazines. I didn't know anything. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know nothing. I just was like, if I got hurt, I pushed forward, and that was it. Put vinegar on it, put tape on it, and just that's it. I never looked any further than right in front of me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did not look for any type of. As long as I didn't break my arm or broke my legs, I was good to go. I got choke slammed outside of the ring by Sid Vicious on top of my head through a table. Had a hematoma this big, and Devon was like, "Hey, you okay?" And dumbass me, "I'm okay." Angel, you sure this is me you're talking to? I'm all right. Angel, this is me, Devon, your friend from Gleason's. This is not Dudley. Are you okay? I'm fine, Devon. All right, don't tell me anything later if you fucking pass out. And then I was throwing up in the bathroom. So again, did I have a concussion? Probably so, but I didn't want to fess up to it.
Same thing here. We're old enough to wrestle before there was an internet, before there was an iPhone or any smartphones of any sort. When you had to go to a library to actually write your term paper. This is the age that Angel and I grew up in. Was ignorance bliss? Maybe a little bit. Sometimes it's called paralysis by analysis. We didn't have time to overthink any of this, and we really did learn a lot of great lessons. That's the thing too. During that time, at least, to push through and finish a match, this is where you kind of weigh the risks, because that taught us to push through in very difficult situations, to finish what we started, to have discipline and willpower and just heart. Things that you have to learn from being a boy to becoming a man. And you're around a bunch of men in your early 20s like I was, you learn real quick your place on the food chain too. So that makes you learn humility. Like what's the thing now? Like would people post the stuff they would post on a larger scale in social media if they thought they had the risk of getting punched in the face? That's a wrestling locker room right there, like a prison yard. You're looking around going, okay, I'm really nothing. And so these are, you know what I mean? We talk about the things that we didn't know and maybe we wish we knew, but also the lessons we learned on a larger scale for our entire existence made us the men we are today. So I wouldn't change a thing in the time that Angel and I came up in the business, because right now it's not something I would want to be in.
Yeah, because my phone was the Sony. It was a black phone, and all I did was play Snake on it. You know, that was my phone.
The Sony Ericsson.
Yeah, Sony Ericsson.
But I think it comes down to
you charge those phones one time a week. I have to charge this thing 3 times a day.
Dude, I'm telling you, I might go back to a Nokia 3550 just to get away from getting tracked and all that bullshit. That's another one for an episode.
But I think it comes down to this day and age as well. Like we mentioned technology, and we have like an encyclopedia at our fingertips at any particular day. You know, in the 90s and times like that, it was a completely different world altogether. And I think that, you know, looking back when I have a combat sports background and a football background, where it's like, you know, I can remember being a teenager going, I think I'm sore. It's all right. Keep going.
He means rugby. Don't let him lie to you. It's not real football. He means rugby.
Yeah, we don't play that pussy shit with all the padding. But you know, I can remember as a teenager just being told by coaches, "Nah, man, you're good. Walk it off, run it off. You're good. Keep going, keep going, keep going." Like I got concussed once, and I was like, couldn't even see where the fuck I was looking at, and I was like, "It's all right, man. Just put water on your face, keep going." And that was just what I was told to do at 15 years old.
But you know, it's funny.
But now it's like. Sorry.
Oh, no, it was for you, Pierce. It's funny because I never, you know, I don't know anything about rugby. Of course, I've seen it many times. But compared to like a football, like, oh, this concussion about football. I mean, then the concussion syndromes must be ridiculous in rugby, because half the players with no helmets, just probably, you know, I mean, I don't know. It's just, how is it out there with that?
Well, Kevin mentioned that they have the 10-minute timeout now, which is where they get assessed, and it's the same here. However, with football, with rugby union or rugby league that we have here in Australia, if it's junior football, so under 18s, if you have a head injury and you come off with a suspected concussion, or you've had a collision with your head with someone's knee or whatever it may be, you are done. You are not coming back on that football field. And that's only been something in the last 10 years they've really implemented. On a professional level, they do it they do the same thing, very similar to what they do in the States. They take them off into a quiet area and they give them a proper assessment. And even then they do, I think it's called a collision test or a cognitive test or something on those lines. And they test them, and they have to make sure that athlete passes that test completely. If they fail one aspect of that test, you ain't going back on the field, boy.
But back then it was totally different, of course. Go back on the field and just put dirt on it and push forward.
Oh, back then it's like you come off. It's like, you know, there's been footballers that would play with broken jaws and you know, broken arms and stuff like that. And now it's, you know, here in Australia, the sports are, you know, the athlete safety is very paramount. You know, it would be if someone even had a suspected broken bone at all, it's like off to the hospital.
Just interesting.
And I think you know, pro wrestling, you know, my belief was in this day and age of pro wrestling that it was that same mentality. We look back, you know, a couple of years ago with Daniel Bryan, you know, the match being stopped, you know, whether that was a work or a shoot, that was a fine line as a fan watching. That was like, because he was saying, no, I'm fucking fine. And he was even saying, remember when you tore your quads, Hunter, you continued the match. You know what I mean? Like, so you know, whether they went there, that fine line, but Daniel Bryan, who's an old school guy, he wanted to go and continue that match, and WWE wouldn't allow him to do it. Whether that was a work or a shoot, I don't know. I'm not privy to that information. Maybe you guys can tell me.
It's hard to say. I mean, we look at this thing too. I think pro wrestling, this is the problem too, that pro wrestling always gets snickers and laughs, and we're kind of second and third grade entertainers and athletes. We really don't get, because we're fictional characters for the most part, we don't get the same reality-based consideration as other sports. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, they're just wrestlers. Like, dude, when I was in WWE,
everybody has an expectation everybody has an expectation for it to always be fake. It's hard for them to believe that any of this is real danger,
which discounts your sympathy and empathy for them as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think at the same breath, they're making millions. Screw them. They lost all their money. Like, people are never going to understand. And that's fine, because it's up to every one of us. As, by the way, we are independent contractors, so Vince, don't take away third parties from them. You ain't going to do it to me. But, as independent contractors, it really is our responsibility and accountability to take it upon ourselves for our own health, invest in our health, invest in our protection and prevention, and also anything we do to try to recover from those things. Your body is the way you make your money. That's why I never understood wrestlers, especially, doing so many things to destroy their body. I'm not even talking about the punishment. I'm talking about the outside activity. I would go back to the room as much as possible, play my one game of Madden, go to bed, wake up early in the morning, hit the gym, and do whatever I can. And I was, a lot of times, the culture back then, I was like, I wouldn't say hazed for it, but I was looked down upon for not doing things to mess my body up outside of the ring. Yeah. That's what changed about wrestling today, which is good, but it still has the old carny pimp prostitute model where you have to kill yourself for the promoter to hope they still fuck you over on the money. Just to let me hope they only fuck me a little bit on my money. And
at least give me the reach around.
It's really just
fucking hell. Well, hard times, Kevin. Hard times.
And they probably
these wrestlers keep putting up with it. This is a time just to speak one last time on it. No. When the pandemic happened and there was no fans. There's WrestleMania every year. Now more than ever, with TV contracts on the line that total almost $1 billion to $2 billion. This will be the time for everybody to at least get together and make some demands. I'm not saying start a union, but start a union if you want. They can protect their own business and their interest right now more than ever. But they're still stuck in the pimp prostitute past model.
Well, that's the thing.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with that. I mean, it's just funny how promoters, like he was talking, promoters wanting to screw you, and they're praying that you have a little bit of CTE, so they go, I know I hold them $200, but maybe if I give him $150, he won't remember, because these promoters are slick. What was you gonna say, Pierce?
Well, I was just gonna say, recently, we're talking about how promoters trying to screw over talent, and you made mention earlier with the third-party deals and the Twitches and all this other bullshit that these WWE stars aren't able to do.
Definitely an episode we're going to have.
I just want to make a comment on this. What if they all fucking got a Twitch account, right? Every WWE superstar, what are they going to do? Fire everybody?
But you need to have somebody
like the look on Stevie's face said it all.
I'm just saying, like, they all get together and go, let's all get fucking Twitch. Let's start fucking playing Call of Duty online together. I don't know. Like, they can't enforce shit like that.
But you got to have somebody to set it off. Everybody's afraid to set something off. They don't want to start a union. They don't want to be, if I mention, I'm using Stevie as an example. Hey, Stevie, I want to start a union. And Stevie stooges me out. Hey, Angel wants to start a union. Out the door. He's a troublemaker. I mean, there's nobody willing to take that helm to help the boys out, to protect us. That's the scary part, that nobody wants nobody wants to take responsibility and start this from the beginning.
Ben and I were going to do it the right way. Ben and I had talked about that because the kid over in England was talking about it, but he made it his own personal vehicle. The kid David Starr was trying to do it, but then all that stuff came out about him. Ben and I were going to talk about doing it, and maybe even getting Russo's help. The thing is, though, there's always the promoter always set it up, much like when Jesse Ventura wanted to start a union. Yeah, Hogan got in better with Vince by stooging Ventura off, and I'm sure he took care of him financially with that. There's always going to be somebody that the promoter takes care of, if not 2 to 3, 4 people that are always going to turn around and go, well, if this happens, I'm losing money. And if I do this, I'm even more in favor with the promoter.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, we're supposedly independent contractors, but we have to wait 90 days to go get another job, all this crazy shit. But anyway.
Yeah. But that's the thing. In Australia, a union, it gives you a little bit of power, but I suppose the sports union is completely different. Like, for example, my background is in risk management and security. I've had to sit down with the security union many times when I've had to sort of discipline people and whatever, and they walk in as a support person for them. They can't say a fucking word in that meeting. This is I present the facts, say this is what's happening, this is what's going on, this is what the expectation is of you as someone who works underneath me for this organization. Bang. And if they turn around and start piping up, I can say, hey, you shut the fuck up. You're here to support him, not here to contribute. How does it work over in the United States with that, though?
Basically the same thing. The union is there to represent the people. I mean, the union is strong if you have a strong union. And I mean, if you get in trouble, I mean, that's why, like in federal government, when like using the postal, where I work at, the union is strong, meaning it's hard to get fired. There's guys pissing off porches and stuff like that, and they didn't get fired because the union represents them. And in that contract is like really tight, so yeah, union is very important because it protects the people's interest. I mean, yeah, you got some shitty unions, but I'm just saying from my experience, the unions I dealt with from law enforcement to working at the spirit company, they're pretty strong.
The thing is, though, it's the wrestling is your police unions, your NFLPA, other unions over with real performance jobs. You can turn around and have your union rep come in or your arbitrator or whatever and get your money and do whatever. But Vince will do everything creatively to make you look like a fool. He will eat the money to make your life miserable. Now, that's the part of wrestling where how does the union come in on that creatively?
Yeah.
That's the point.
And I don't want to go off topic here, but it's just that, like, I remember a long time ago when the WWE network came on and they were like, and the, ECW, I'm like, I'm not getting no royalties. And this is when everybody was tripping about not getting any type of royalties besides Stevie. But anyway, but Tommy told me this, Dreamer. He said, Angel, Vince will keep you in court for as long as he can, so you can waste all your money, so you can get that little bit that you want at the end. He will make you waste all your resources until you're broke, so you can get your, let's say, $2,000 royalty check. And I'm like, God damn.
It's a matter of principle then for him. It's not like he's
got an entire floor at Titan Towers dedicated to a legal department with Jerry McDevitt and everybody else. He has them on retainer. He hires them and pays them salaries. So they're working anyway. This is what I want you to do for the next however long.
But anyway.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a quick story before we go, and it's a little off topic, but this is the way it is, and it works out in my favor because I knew that time would eventually repair the damage to what the story. And I'll tell you, when I was renegotiating my deal, which was basically like, here's your deal, take it. But when I was renegotiating my deal right before, this is the funny part about pro wrestling. You took the time to print out the 60-page document with the death clause and everything else in there, and you released me like maybe 2 months later. So that's the weird part about wrestling, how they don't spend their time well. But when I renegotiated my deal, I said to Johnny Ace, he was like, well, hey, Stevie, is there anything you want? I don't do a good impression right now, but he said, is there anything you want? And I knew that, like, Money didn't matter. My time was limited. But if I could manage to somehow let them agree to let me keep my name, even though I had it since 91, if I could get that in writing in an addendum, because they've jobbed me out for years. So maybe they'll just, here you go. I was right, because I said, I'd really love to own Stevie Richards. I'd love to own my name just in case down the line, if I do anything else. I didn't say wrestle. If I start my own business, brand, or whatever. And he didn't mean anything by it, but just think this is the way wrestling is. And this is where, if you take it too personally, it can destroy you. He laughed and he goes, of course you can have your name. He goes, we'll keep Steven because of the right to censor. You can have Stevie. I mean, your name's not worth anything now anyway. So yeah, of course you can have it.
Oh, what a fucking backhanded.
I didn't care, because guess what? I was getting my name. I was getting to keep my name. And I knew history or time or something. TNA was in existence. So I could there was things to do. I just needed that name. Insult me all you want, make me feel like a piece of shit. If that addendum is on the end of that contract with my name, that's all I care about.
And I suppose you worked as Stevie Richards for a hell of a lot longer than you.
It doesn't matter. You just said that
that's what I'm saying. That you own. Yeah. But I'm saying you would rather
I can own my name
Stevie.
all I want, but Jerry McDevitt in the second floor of Titan Towers could fight me on it and bankrupt me. That's the point. I just needed that in writing. So that little bit I needed, and I knew I'm not going to dig. I knew I had time and history, hopefully, on my side, because there wouldn't be a Stevie Richards Fitness. There wouldn't be a Stevie Richards anywhere since then. I wouldn't be able to even podcast under my wrestling name. So that pivotal moment where I just ate shit for 30 seconds, it was worth it.
Paid off at the end.
But that's where the boys, that's the way people talk to you. And there's a difference too, like, not to just go off on a tangent. I was listening to Pat McAfee. When you have to put your agent hat on and negotiate money, you really have to take yourself personally out of it, because they'll do whatever they can to make you feel this big, and you're trying to make yourself feel this big. If, like Angel said, if I knew this 20 years ago, my life would have been a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
But I heard WWE really didn't like dealing with managers and agents. Like, they prefer to just deal with the talent.
Well, that should be your first clue right there.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Let's not deal with the guys that do this every day. Let's just deal with the guys that are performers for us. But to me, that thing, when I found that out, I thought, that's some fucking sketchy shit.
That's some good shit.
That's sketchy.
So
shit,
all in all, let's wrap it back up and say, the next time that a promoter tells you to get speared through a table from 15 feet up and then fall through a scaffold, think about it. Is it worth it to get CTE when you know the promoter never, no matter how nice he puts it, no matter how much he says he cares, he doesn't care about you. She doesn't care about you. Nobody cares about you except yourself and the people that you're going to have to live with after you take that bump, after you take that spear, after the AEW, WWE, Impact, and all that stuff have chewed you up and spit you out. Think about that.
Absolutely not. Well, honestly, I couldn't think of a better place to end the show. I do want to take a quick second to thank Stevie Richards for being here with us. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you sit down and talk to us. I want to thank the Vince Russo Network for allowing us to bring our podcast onto his platform. Quick shout out to our amazing sponsors, being A-Rock Designs. If you guys want to get your hands on any custom merchandise, like all those cool wrestling cups you see floating around like the one Pierce has, or anything not wrestling related, make sure you hit up A-Rock Designs on Facebook. And if you have trouble finding it, always reach out to one of us and we can point you in the right direction. Also, WASF Championship belt. Go ahead.
Tell you what's up, I don't have one.
For any of your championship belt needs, if you're looking to start your belt collection or add to your belt collection, you can get in contact with myself or Piers, and we'll gladly take any belt orders that you may have, Stevie. But anyway.
And Stevie, I know you don't need the plug because, but the two fans that we have on our show, where can they find you?
Well, you can go to StevieRichardsFitness.com and check it out. I just finished editing the beginner yoga series, which is a full follow-along thing that will include breathing, safety stuff, a core workout, very much for beginners. So it's very much the basic foundations. And I'm even selling them in modules. So people, if you just want to try the first month out or first module, you can do that. They're all going to be under $10 a piece. Lifetime access. If you lose the videos, resend you to download links. And everything I sell on there has bonus content and also lifetime access to the programs and videos. And I want to say something about your show. And I said it when you guys started it. You guys have an amazing niche, mainly because most of the boys and girls are afraid to talk about this stuff. And that's what makes it stand out. And it's a very honest podcast. I enjoy listening to it. I'm catching up on it. I got the DiBiase episode, finishing up that during cardio and going kind of backwards on your case numbers. It's just stick with it because it's really something from a legal perspective, from the boys talking about it, outsider and insider kind of going back and forth. It's really unique. Vince loves it. Ben loves it. I love it. It's going to catch on. It's just consistency and staying there each and every week with it. Hey, somebody's got to do it. Nobody actually wants to do it. Why not you guys?
I'll do it. Yeah,
that was Angel's.
We love doing it.
That was Angel's. So all of this started, and I got to give a plug to Piers because Piers, this really was your brainchild. Well, it was Angel's brainchild, but you really put the wheels into motion. Yeah. Piers and I run other shows where we interview people from pro wrestling. Piers reaches out to Angel, gets him on his show. They have an amazing interview, and next thing you know, Angel wants to do a podcast. And Angel's one thing was, I don't give a shit. Ain't nobody knocking down my door. Because that was one of our biggest thing was like, how far do we go? What do we talk about? What don't we talk about? And Angel's like, look, ain't nobody knocking down my door. We talk about anything.
Yep. And that's the thing. Like, I brought in Kevin as a close friend of mine, and we were thinking, okay, this is going to be Angel's podcast. So Angel was saying, what about a name? I was like, I don't know. What about Angel's Stories or Angel's Wings? Or, I don't know, some shit like that. And to Angel's credit, he didn't big time us. He went, fuck that shit. No, man, it's not my show. It's our show. So let's make this fucking bitch good. So
I wanted to do Fat Rats Chronicles, but
that'll be your spinoff show. Little one-man Twitch stream. One more thing, just on Angel. I know he's joking, but he's saying it just kind of like he's open to being completely honest about this. I have had contact with companies over the past couple of years, but also at the same time, I'm very upfront that the brands I built along with Russo and then being on shows like this and doing my own stuff, I've been at a point where I can be like completely comfortable with myself and honest and outwardly honest about things and show integrity and ethics that I've always had, but now no fear of, so what, you don't want to, you think that's a holdup. They just want to let people know, and you guys too, especially Angel, they'll come along and try to take that freedom and take that and shut you up and do those things. Don't do it. You guys are on the right road. And I will never, ever sacrifice the freedom I have to be the best I can be and all the things I can do for a stupid fake wrestling push or something on a TV spot. It's not attractive to me anymore. Now, if you pay me some money, that makes it pretty attractive. But other than that, but I'm going to just give you guys that if you ever think you're doing the wrong thing or you think you're never going to run out of material, the business is always going to give you material. You saw that with Marty Jannetty. So just keep doing what you guys are doing. A lot more people will catch on and enjoy it. And it's a quality show.
And I'm just going to steal something from Stevie. We're taking over.
Steal that all day long. Steal it too.
But hey, fans out there, seriously, if you want a good workout, you want to get a lot of good content, definitely check out Stevie Richards Fitness. He has a lot of knowledge. I mean, Pierce, please take him up on his offer. Anyway, let's close it up.
Belts for programs.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this episode with Wrestling with Tragedy.
Special episode.
Absolutely. Such a special honor and privilege to have Stevie Richards on here. We'll have Ben Hameen coming up on one of the future episodes, and you're really going to want to sit down and listen to his take on the certain topic that we covered. I don't want to give anything away, but it's definitely going to be one you guys want to watch. So from everybody from Wrestling with Tragedy, from the Vince Russo Network, from Stevie Richards, from everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week with another amazing episode. Thanks, guys.
Say hi to your mum for me.